Would you do the usual and make us legal, please?
This is a financial planning allocation commission special meeting with a budget workshop on Wednesday, March 22nd, starting at 7 p.m. Rules and conduct for this hybrid virtual meeting. It's a web-based meeting operating under the following procedures. This session will be both video and audio recorded. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video on themselves throughout the meeting. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of the staff or the chair. For public input before the meeting, please email your comments to publicinput@columbiact.org within 24 hours before the meeting. And we have not received it.
Now that we know the rules, let's go ahead and do the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minutes of last week. We read them.
I move that we approve the minutes tonight.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Good. We have no email comments. Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing. We don't do it always at citizens at the budget workshops. So I guess we launch right into the budget discussion.
Then can we ask the iPhone caller to just identify themselves? We have a caller on the iPhone. If you could just identify yourself for our record of minutes, that'd be great. Thanks. Welcome, Mike. I see you just joined us.
Hi, how are you, everyone?
Great.
No response.
Nothing yet.
Want to repeat that and then we'll move on? Your request.
iPhone, person just came in by iPhone. It's our third member of our meeting. Could you just identify yourself, please? All right, I'm gonna take you off and then just come back in with a name on your iPhone. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to budget discussion. Anybody have a preference on when we start or how we start? Or
I wouldn't mind starting. Yeah, one of the reasons is simply that I'm not going to be here next week. I have a funeral in New York City. I'm not sure that I can get on remotely. So I just had a couple comments and then some questions. One of the comments is the Board of Education budget is up 5.67%. And the Board of Selectmen's budget is up 6.25%. And I thought that both Barbara and Steve did an excellent job in presenting their budgets as we do. In all honesty, I was expecting, with the economy the way it is, with inflation the way it is, I was expecting the budgets to be even higher. I think they worked hard to keep it low, and honestly, I'm not sure. I don't think we should cut anything from that. I know that in the past we've talked about that, and then that's what I was talking about this time around. But I think they presented a very real budget, and I'm not sure it makes sense to cut anything. The rate is going up 11%. Now, in the past, what we do is when the mill rate was going up, we were able to keep it at a 0% increase by taking money from the fund balance. We have $4,600,000 in the fund balance. And I think we can take a fair amount of money from the fund balance so that we can lower the mill rate increase substantially. I did have a couple questions, and maybe Steve or someone else can answer them, but I'm assuming we have to keep $2 million in the fund balance to cover HVAC.
No, that comes off the top first.
I'm sorry.
I understand from last month, that week, that was gonna come off the top first. So the 1.8 would be taken out of the fund balance and go into the
So that means,
separated
It's
account.
allocated.
so that means that the amount that we have in the fund balance, that we're taking 1.8 out, is about 2.8 million, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, 4.6 million and 1.
Still a healthy fund balance, still a very good fund balance.
So I guess what I'm thinking or wondering is how much we can take out of the fund balance to lower the mill rate increase. I don't think we can have a 0% increase this year like we have in the past. But how much should we leave in the fund balance? I know that last couple of years we've left at the end of the budget, when we decided the budget was about 17%. And I think it would make sense maybe to go even lower than that, like maybe 12%, which is a healthy amount. So I want to find out what people are comfortable with and leaving in the fund balance, we have 2.8 million, so that we can reduce that increase in the mill rate. That's what I'm coming from. And by the way, I'm thinking that we should approve the budgets that presented by Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen. We just have to figure out how to use the fund balance to lower the mill rate increase.
Guess we're done.
That's what I was gonna say, wow, all already handled, let's go.
And I'm not gonna be here next week, so I'm hoping to make some decisions today. So,
Can I address and clarify? Thank you. The $1.8 million, to take that out, set it aside for the HVAC, is basically a feel good for the state. You know, telling you. Because if it doesn't, if it comes in over $1.8 million, and we don't get at least 45% in grant, the next day that 1.8 can go back to the general fund. We don't have to use it, because if we don't get 45% of the total amount of the job through the grant, it's null and void if we decide. Okay? So to take that money, 1.8, we are basically saying we need to get 45% of that from the grant, or we start all over. So I understand what you're saying. It's the shell game run by the state, but we put in a couple of shells that we're able to peek under, so we can get our money back if it's not to our satisfaction. Okay, so I say that because I don't like it when we say, oh, we have to allocate the 1.8 like it's gone, it's a done deal. It is not a done deal. We don't get the grant, we don't spend the 1.8.
But we need to assume
understand.
worst case scenario.
I understand that, Steve. And matter of fact, if we get the grant, then the 1.8 is gonna be like $900,000 or $950,000. But when do we see that money? Don't we have to put aside, if we're gonna get in the grant, don't we have to put aside the 1.8 million?
Yes.
And then that money has to be available until the grant money comes to us, right?
Which we think is the end of 2024, essentially.
That's what we're told.
But usually would we pay for the job when it's,
Right.
the final payment is made when the job is done and it passes inspection, which would probably be the day before January 1st, 2024.
But if it's
I can understand
allocated,
what you're
it's not
saying.
in the general fund.
Huh?
If it's allocated, it's not in the general fund anymore, and our
Okay.
general fund will be under 3 million.
Was it available last time?
Right.
That's right. It's not available, but it doesn't mean that it's
Physically
necessarily
moved.
gone.
It's not undesignated, it's designated. So Bev, what amount would you be comfortable taking from the general fund, assuming that we have to put this 1.8 million aside, taken from the general fund to lower the mill rate?
I don't think it's fair to put that on the spot like that. It's not her job to make that sort of decision.
If I could just say something,
Certainly,
I appreciate your thoughtful appraisal of the situation. I feel like it's very premature because we haven't really finished our discussion of the education budget. And in your mind, you're ready to say, you're good to go, but that certainly isn't true for me. So I really need to hear more discussion, and, you know, hear what other questions, people have. So, yeah, with all due respect, I think it's a little soon to start asking about how much we would be comfortable with reducing the fund.
I mean, even normally I would be sitting here and doing a lot of listening, but I'm not gonna be in next week, so I'm hoping to move this
no,
discussion
it's
along.
probably not gonna
Right,
happen.
it's not gonna help.
Okay. No, I do want people's input, that's all I'm asking, I'm not asking for decisions to be made.
I'm leaning with Judy, I guess, not necessarily because I have a problem with anybody's budget, but I think part of our job is to monitor and understand what's going on. And you don't really get that understanding if you just leave to, 3% is great. Let's go home. I think we need to, I know what that really means.
I also agree with you and Judy. I do want to go through that analysis, but it is helpful, I think, to some extent, to have a concept of the end game as you're getting there, because you can have that in your mind. And so I would like to understand from Bev, what, assuming the budget went, or the undesignated fund went down to 2.87, almost 3 million. What percentage would that be of the overall budget? Is that 12%?
I don't know.
So I think it's 20, well, am I right that it's 23 million? I was looking at the last page of
It's
this.
23%.
No, total requirements at the very end on page 31, it says 23 million. Is that the divisor?
I never understood that percentage, so.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what the divisor is, because I do have a calculator, so, or is it the 16.7?
That's me, I always feel a conversation, yes, control that percentage.
But I have a hard time
Yeah, I guess,
going too low, so it will inform my thought process. around this.
understood, but, I'm not sure one size fits all, that's my problem is that the bigger your operating budget is, the more our 12% is.
It's of the total.
A tiny town, 12%.
19.7 is the
Doesn't
total
give you much
required.
of a
It's
cushion.
$20 million, okay, right?
So the budget is 20 million?
It's nearly $20 million, okay? So
The 19.7.
10% is 2 million, 15% is 3 million. So if we
Okay,
want
so
to fund
15%.
budget, 15% fund with 15%, you're looking at $3 million.
To keep it.
All right, so we're close. Okay, that helps me think about it. And
Okay, but just to add to that, with an anticipation of recouping from the state how much,
In 2024, yeah, so we would get 900 back,
so it's
ish.
at 28 plus 9. Okay.
I just don't count on that till it's actually in the bank. Trust the state, frankly.
Okay. Are you done?
Yeah.
Judy, you want to lead the discussion? You have some questions or things you wanted to talk about?
Are we gonna start with the education budget?
Yeah, why not? Let's do that budget.
Yeah, that's what.
While you gather your thoughts, let me just, this time, I'm the one who always likes to look back a year. And when we closed the budget last time, there was a expectation that we're gonna get 135 new special ed kids and sort of break the bank. What is the story with that? The numbers, year to date, I seem to indicate that we got a big influx or a big hit on the special ed tuition numbers. So
So remember last year you had said, you know, you were gonna cut 200, and then I did tell you, you know, I had special ed expenses that were not budgeted that came in after the budget. So I'm glad I prepared this before. We had an outplacement, $105,000 that wasn't in the budget. A new resident requiring transition services, that was $60,000. We needed to hire a special staff member for a new student. That was $65,000. I did do, you know, we do things such as residency checks, which the residency check that I did resulted in a savings of $60,000. So that was the other way. There was a change in services for a transition student. That was $30,000. And then there were, many outside evaluations at about $20,000. So all in all, about $220,000 of unbudgeted special ed expenses.
how do we? See if I can translate what's in my brain to English. I know for the salaries, we pretty much encumber everything. So if you know you're gonna pay somebody $80,000, that $80,000 is in the budget or is in the expenses year to date. Do we do the same thing with tuition or special ed tuition, or how close is this year to date number that's in the budget document? How close is that to where we're gonna be at the end of the year?
So that's where it's hard to determine because these unbudgeted expenses came into fruition after the budget process was completed.
You'll understand that I don't think you, right now, year to date, you've spent $3,238,000 on tuition. That's regular special ed, et cetera. Looks like if I look at Bolton, you budgeted 293,000 and spent and income today is exactly that number. So I would look at this and say, I wouldn't expect us to spend another dollar on Bolton tuition this year. I don't know if that's true for all the numbers in the tuition category.
So I'll just chime in on that. So pretty much the regular ed is close. I think we may have some adjustments for the Smith coming in. I think there were some changes, same thing with WOAG. And Barbara and I need to sit down and talk about the high school services. There might have been some changes in that as well. So that number probably changing. We'll have to try to have that by next week.
Yeah, for the outplacements and the services, is there like we expect there to be a series of monthly billings that will add to those bottom two numbers, bottom three numbers?
So the outplacement is basically a monthly building. It's the high school services that we get. Probably get basically one bill, so did a partial payment could request the bill, but the high school services number may be changing. We just have to confirm a couple things and then that encumbrance may actually be coming down.
Okay, but the 3 million, I'm looking at 3,238,000, and that number, what I'm hearing is that number is not likely to change a lot.
The 3.2 million?
Yeah.
It could change, possibly, there could be a swing. I'm not gonna. Can't give you definite, could be as little as 50, could go up to 100, depending on. what we look at.
100,000?
Yep.
Okay, that's cool, good enough.
Yeah.
Okay, but that gets me back to looking at the numbers and trying to get from what we heard last April to the numbers I'm looking at. I don't really see that. The numbers in the original budget were before we knew about incoming unanticipated special ed kids. So if a bunch of new kids came in, I would expect the expenses to be more than 433,000. I'll just pick the outplacement numbers. And you said, I heard you tell us last week that you did some special things and that brought some stuff in-house. I understand that, so. And I guess the numbers for next year reflect that.
The numbers for next year reflect what I know right now today, and they haven't changed. Those numbers haven't changed since last week.
Okay. You ready yet, Judy?
Yes.
Go.
Well, I've been sort of pouring over the variances and trying to figure out for myself, but I would like you to tell me what the top 3 drivers of the increase are.
Of the increase to this
To the proposed budget.
so salaries,
And they're increased because,
just contracts. So contracts, I did tell you I was adding 2 positions, but contracts alone, the certified, non-certified, all the union contracts get a raise every year currently. And so that reflects the raise.
and the 2 positions,
Really are 3 positions, but 2 of them are half-time positions to make up 2.
and that's totally different classes. Benefits, insurance costs, seem
Are added in there.
and they're gone.
They have gone up, yes.
I guess unlike Dick, maybe I wasn't thinking about the inflation rate enough, but I wasn't expecting to see a 6% increase. I was expecting to see maybe a couple of percent increase, but being very mindful of not automatically going to increase the mill rate or dip into the undesignated funds. First response.
So the budget is up 4% or something, but because of the reduction in grants, the town's portion is over 5.
What do teachers make these days? Top tier.
Top tier, about $94,000. 94,95. I do have this, if you'd like to see that.
No,
No,
no.
What's your average?
most of our teachers are at the top step for seasoned teachers.
Most of our masters.
Yeah.
Good staff retention.
So what were the salary increases? Were they in the range of 10 or plus
So
percent?
teachers got 3%, other staff got 2.25 and 2.5 with 3 contracts.
And so then if that was the percentage increase, what accounts for a 13% overall increase in the budget for salary? Is it benefits?
So there's 2 positions added, so that went up a little bit. Right, and then
And how much did
if
the,
a teacher is not at top step, right? if they're on step 6, and they also got a step increase, so they get more than that 3%.
Which could be-
Or they got another degree and they go over, so they might have had their bachelor's and now they have their master's, or now they have their master's plus 30, which is the 6th year or a doctorate.
It's been a lot of years since I looked at it, but some of those steps could be substantial, like 10%. But that was in the old days. I don't know about the current contracts.
Are they roughly 5% for
Each person,
each step?
each step. So I guess that depending, you know, or they have, I can provide you with this. If you'd like. So,
And the combined 2 salaries are at what amount?
the extra 2
Yeah, 11
positions.
2, is it 180,000
we
for 2?
estimated, I think, 150 for both. I think we
Something like
did
that,
about
yes.
75. We didn't go top step for both. We just did about 75,000.
Are you done, Judy?
I think for now.
Nobody else have anything on the end budget? You probably don't want to answer this question, and I shouldn't ask it. There seems to have been something unusual that happened this year in the salary line. Was there, and I won't ask you for specifics if there's something. It just seemed like if we didn't add any staff, the actual year-to-date salaries for this year are a lot higher. And they should be, unless something unusual happened in the class or something.
So it's sometimes that it's hard that the paper doesn't explain the story. So for instance, let's say a teacher went out on maternity leave and he or she is being paid their salary for a while, then another teacher comes in and then you're paying, you know, for basic, you know, a position, you have 2 salaries to pay at that time. Or somebody leaves mid-year, we get somebody who, to replace that person who's at a higher step or a higher salary or a lower salary. So that's why it's hard to. be
Well,
specific.
let me, I don't mean to cut you off. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but whatever happened this year along those lines is that resolved itself. So sometimes those things can go 2 or 3 years. Are we done with whatever that was for this year? Okay.
I do have one more question about that, just to make sure I understand something. So, as I understand, Scott, you are both essentially dealing with 2 jobs at this point in time, right? I mean, you're interim superintendent, you're still doing special ed job. And you're assistant principal, or?
No. So I'm the assistant superintendent.
Superintendent, right?
I'm working in part-time basis.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
essentially, I think Barb and I would be fair to say are sharing the superintendent's position. So I'm taking, by working part-time, I'm able to take some of the load off Barb in her superintendent responsibilities, allowing her to continue to be the full-time special services director.
General discussion, again, I'm trying to understand. Wrong separated from school. Talk to me a little bit about technology. We used to, years ago, I remember when the radical idea of giving some kids iPads came up. Where are we now? What do we do now?
The lows, 2nd grade and below, students have iPads. 3rd grade and above, I believe, and I wish Kara was on, 3rd grade and above, everybody has a Chrome.
She's up. As a what?
So Kara Pipen, if I'm incorrect, 2nd grade and below, everyone has an iPad, students. 3rd grade and up have Chromebooks. All students.
Sorry, I'm in my car. I can jump in if you want.
But it's 3rd grade and up that have Chromebooks, or
Second.
is it 2nd grade? Okay, that's right, all right. So only kindergarten first can have the iPads, 2nd and up have the Chromebooks through 8th grade.
Then how do we roll those over?
So, you know, obviously we use them as long as we can and keep them until they break and then we need to replace them.
Yeah, we keep them through warranty. So we keep them through their warranty and fix them as best that we can every year. And They have about a 4-year warranty on them. So in 5th grade, students, we're starting the program where they receive one-to-one devices. They're expected to keep for the entire time of their warranty. That's in order to replace less each year.
Anybody else?
They have a security officer.
We do not, but we
We're adding a position for.
we are not.
We took it out.
We took it out. Yeah, we took it out.
Go. I have to be honest with you, I don't know what a kindergartner or a first grader is doing with an iPad. What happened to, I'm showing my age here, but pen and paper, or watching the teacher demonstrate it on the board. How is it so that they, is it individual teaching with each one? And then the other thing is through the warranty, is dropping those iPads and is that covered by warranty, bouncing it off the ground and stuff?
To answer your first question, they're not on iPads all day. It's a supplemental usage of that. They still have paper and pencil. The teacher still teaches at the board, and often drops are covered.
Okay,
Steve, when my grandson was 4 years old, he was more proficient on his iPad than I ever would be.
that's wonderful. I have a grandson who's 5 years old and he's at a 3rd grade level because he doesn't have an iPad.
Okay.
He's taught. So, I'm just saying. We didn't, and I remember that, we said no to iPads, and lo and behold, this was years ago, and lo and behold, somehow in the budget, they found money for 90 iPads. And I asked my kids who were in high school at the time, where is your father's middle schoolers getting iPads? And they looked at me like, are you nuts? But I'm just wondering. Chromebooks and iPads and everything under the age of 7, 8 years old. With all this wonderful teachers, and I know, I understand, I wouldn't want to be a teacher, I don't care how much you pay me. But Chromebooks and iPads and everything, how are we on our scores? How are our scores? How are our kids leaving for school?
So if you'd like to look at SFAC scores, I have that documentation here. But I can also share a story. Kara and Scott actually met with EO. Do you want to share that a little bit?
Sure.
What the principal was sharing?
We, so there are obviously test scores and then there's actual student performance when they leave Porter and enter. Now, in this case, EO Smith, because they're the ones that we talk to in the greatest detail. And what EO Smith has been doing is charting each and every Porter student and how they're performing. So they're using 2 measures. One is the letter grade they're receiving in, and they provided us with 4 reports. So letter grade in English language arts, letter grade in math, letter grade in science, letter grade in social studies. They also administer the PSAT to our students in September. And so they looked at how our students performed. And I can tell you that the vast majority, and I'm talking everyone other than just 1 or 2 students, was well above what we would consider an acceptable grade within each of the 4 disciplines. Students were about half and half on the PSATs. But what was encouraging was the fact that when you looked at the students who had were over the benchmark score for the PSATs, their letter grades were in the C, D, and A range. If you look at the students that scored below the benchmark on the PSATs, their letter grades were also in the C, D, and A range. So there wasn't a dramatic difference. And really the message that they brought to us specifically for Porter students is that we should be encouraging more of our students to be taking honors level courses, because that's really where most of our students are falling in the EO Smith curriculum. I asked the question because any teacher, administrator, parent will ask, well, how do our kids fare against all the other schools that feed into EO Smith? And we and 1 other town were certainly the highest of the scoring students So they were doing very well.
And yet, I think I saw a report that said we're about 89th out of 164 in our scores.
On the SBAC scores, yeah. Yeah.
Smarter Balance Assessment. We called CMTs a long time ago. They changed it. The state assessments that all districts do.
It's a state assessment that the state provides and mandates that we take. One of the challenges for a K-8 district is that when our 8th graders take it in the spring, we don't get the scores until late summer. And, the scores tell us, kind of how the students have done, but they don't provide us an opportunity to provide any other, remediation. One of the things that we've been talking about is possibly adding the PSATs. The SATs are what our graduating seniors take. That's the state required test and has become kind of the benchmark that at least high schools are certainly looking at. And a lot of K-12 districts have started to administer the PSATs in 8th grade so that the students have 5 years of practice and they can, seen by some at least as maybe a better measure of how our students are doing.
And yet it's the SATs that help them get into different colleges.
Correct, yes. Yeah.
So our A, Bs, and C students are cut in half, 50-50. Some are over the PSAT level and some are under the PSAT level. So that would kind of coincide with the 80, our position of 80 something on the 160.
So I can tell you too, historically, the SBAC scores have been low. There have been new initiatives that resulted in our SBAC scores going up this last time. And we continue to put new initiatives in, such as new curriculum, aligning more to the standardized, the standards that the state sets for us. So we are optimistic that we're going to continue to see that uptrend.
Do they focus primarily on the internet reading capabilities?
Well, they charge you the whole job, but there's, the 4 core courses are English language arts, math, social studies, and science. We also have arts and music and.
No, I'm saying yes back.
Oh, yes, yeah. math.
Could you two stop having a private conversation and speak up so we can all?
I asked her what were the main subjects covered in the SBAC.
Math and reading primarily. There's also a science assessment that's not done really, it's done in 5th and 8th grade.
So, one of the things that we always find that changes throughout the budget cycle is the health insurance. And right now it's a $323,000 increase of 28%. Are we any closer to knowing what the real number is gonna be?
I'll leave to that.
So they're not finalizing the numbers till probably, I'd say by mid-April. And it may only go down like 0.4%. That. It's not. Why?
Why is it only going down? I mean, so it's gonna be
Because right now we budgeted at
28, still over
7.5.
28%.
We started at 12. We brought it down to 10 and we got closer to the budget because we were told it went to 10. And before we had it just published, it was predicted towards 7.1, but that wasn't definite, so we budgeted at 7.5. Just to have, just in case the state didn't give us the right information.
So why is it 28.7?
Why is it up that high? Because with the changeover in the staff, more and more people this year have come on, taking the insurance than in prior years. Some are current staff members that said, oh, well, we like the state plan, let's go on this. Some have lost their coverage for other reasons, and then we have new staff members that came on and took family plans.
Okay, so 20% of this is added staff.
Yep.
So we don't think that number's gonna change.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I was the one that asked for the test scores, so.
So I'll set you for you.
Yeah, well, no, I want to come get it so I can look at it.
Well,
Right,
the test scores are broken down, so it's
by grade.
by grade, so it's this is a website. There's third through
I
eighth.
know where you can get used Chromebook.
Going back to that,
You got a second grader that can run it for me?
going back to that Chromebook or something, I guess, one of the big increases was in equipment for technology, is that's a smart board
That
replacement.
was replacement of smart boards
And last-
and laptops. Slash Chromebooks.
Anything else on board of that budget?
Well, I just wanted to, Judy asked the question, what were the three drivers? You started with number one was salary. I'm guessing the other one is software and textbooks. They're pretty substantial.
Benefits.
So benefits and salary are 1 and 2. And then
I mean, I can tell you.
probably ish, yeah, and then, because, you know, software is 154%, textbooks are 400.
So remember, the textbook
85%.
line is curriculum as well, which
Yeah.
includes that new K through 3 or K through 5 reading curriculum.
And we know that that has to be done this year.
So that has passed.
I'm sorry, go
Up
ahead.
to, I told you, up to 3rd grade, we had budgeted up through 5th grade. Because it was not much of a difference in price to do through 5th grade. We took out 6, 7, 8.
Would it be too much of a headache for you to just not put a lot of work into it, but just jot down the estimated cost of some of the recent mandates? I mean, you talked about tuition.
So,
Not now, but at some point.
and somebody had asked me also for a listing of all bills that could potentially affect education. So I did not make copies for everyone because this is double-sided and you're welcome to have this. Again, these aren't passed, these are pending bills.
Okay, now, Art has to learn how to use the copy machine.
Now he needs to learn how to use the General Assembly site that tracks all the bills with a certain word in the name.
Sorry. My ultimate question is, if we had to cut, where would we cut?
And I haven't looked at that yet.
We can't tell them where to cut. All
No.
we can do is give them a number and
But
then
we
they have to
can't,
go
we
back.
can't pick a number out of the air. I would like to have a basis to pick a number from. So that's the question, is if there are things that are mandated that can't be changed. Can't change what you pay salaries, you can change whether or not you hire somebody. So what if anything is changeable in the budget that you could, like, let's say we don't get the money for the grant and we decide to do something with the HVAC. That's important to you. We understand that that's important to you. That may be something that goes into the budget, but then you'd have to offset something else. So have you considered if you had to cut something, what it would be?
We have
Or
not,
a month?
looked at that yet, we have not. And
Could
the HVAC would go into capital, correct, which is at 0.
So
Well,
It was
yeah,
asked
but money's
last
money. I don't care whether it comes from capital or you're operating. We're talking about money that's coming out of the town's budget from the taxpayers. So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
ask a question here, because last week it was requested that if you had questions similar like that, to send them off to Ernie so that we can all prepare answers for questions like that. So if that's something you want for next week, then I think that would be more fair than put Barb on the spot. Or the Mark, if you ask Mark the same question.
Yeah, but that's a slippery.
Actually, I can
slope.
answer that, because when we sat down in the budget, you and I looked at places that we could, if we had to truly cut.
Yeah.
So, but we're in a different situation. Okay, if we don't take down all these trees, there'll be some for work for next year. It's different.
I assume that all budget makers do the same thing, so I just assume that they would have that information. I can do an email to you, Arnie, and ask you to ask that question.
If I could just chime in, there was a list, I'm sure it was in the PowerPoint, of items that didn't make it into the budget or that were already, those are probably the most substantive that we didn't even add to. We would love to. If any of those were in the budget, those certainly would have been. I know that doesn't answer the
Right.
question, but
Right, and I understand, but I mean, we're looking for a 3% increase in the mill rate. Or 2.99 mill rate increase, so it's our responsibility to look for what we can cut, and we don't want to arbitrarily make a decision and pick a number out of the air. We'd like to hear from the stakeholders about, you know, what the options are, so. That's just my perspective, that's all.
Just- I'm not trying to trick you on the question. Tech contracted services are up 63,000. And on that reduction list, one of those was a $60,000 tech. You just take it out of there and add it to the budget.
The
for here.
60,000 reduction, because
Yes.
remember that was from, we were going to do
Yeah.
5 days of IT. We
Yeah.
left it at 3.
Yeah, but now your tech contracted services are up 63.
It could be the, I can't, off the top of my head, I'd have to go back and look at the line.
63,847.
I mean, some of it, there.
I don't think that didn't get added in there.
No, it wasn't in there. I think there was, first of all, the contract had already increased anyway.
Right.
Their usual increase, plus there's, no, that's the tech contract for the school overall. and that's 16,000, so I'm not sure.
That's from 239, 567, 303, 414.
That's the words highlighted around it.
That's the account number.
I'm sorry, I'm dealing with the major, not the minor
You're
account.
in the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
okay. That's something, well, if we don't have the answer, then we can look at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll look at it again.
There's,
This might have been from this is probably from a prior version, so maybe that number needs to be adjusted, because it's only two
there's not
thirty-nine.
just tech and technology, there's other things in there that constitute
I
it.
don't know if it has to do with cybersecurity training for the teachers. I mean, there's a lot of things I come from the field, so I don't know.
Will that tech line allow you this year to have Zoom capability for the board of ed meeting?
We could have talked sort of that. The tech contract, we currently don't have that.
They have Zoom, but they don't
They have
have the
Zoom, we don't
technology
have
like
that.
OWL and other things they have to look at. They have some stuff like the Juno, but I don't know if that would be enough to cover them doing a full Zoom meeting.
I have been asked that by a resident.
Oh, they've already brought up the board of ed meeting.
340 was it.
Okay, if you look at the numbers, there's an 80,000 increase in information tech services and maintenance. Service and maintenance. It's actually in the budget document again, if it's something you can look at.
Yeah, this
If the
one-
numbers surprise you.
We might have been having a price change before they made some changes.
Anything else? On board of ed?
Yeah, what was the, I mean, what type of new language arts program, I'm sorry.
Fine.
Okay, what type of new language arts program are you doing? It's a 930% increase.
The, under that textbook line, that.
Yeah,
curriculum
yeah,
line,
yeah. I assume it's a total new, it looks like it'd be a total.
We're
new
buying a
language arts.
brand new one for K through 5, and it, which one we haven't picked yet, we're allowed to pick from 6. So we're looking into those right now.
The one that
That's
language
amazing.
arts is
Yeah,
the one that
that
you're talking
was,
about,
that was
reading
not
from.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, why are you switching over? Is there any
The
reason?
mandate.
Okay, you're mandating, okay, never mind.
You got something?
No,
Or you just happy?
I'm just happy. I'm just listening. I was just rehashing last week.
Okay, if we have a question, we can close tonight's discussion on the board of ed budget. Again, if you have zip questions to me, it's fine, and, I think,
I have a question. This projection for the board of ed, does that have a full-time superintendent position for next year?
It does.
okay, we gave you guys a couple of things, and, maybe if somebody feels like they had a question that needs to be clarified, again, the earlier we get it to them, the more complete answer we can expect. So if we don't have anything else on that budget, I think I'll extend the courtesy of letting them go if they choose to leave right now, but you're also welcome to stay. Board of Selectmen budget. No comments, no questions, everybody's happy with everything.
Do we have from the library? They're asking for a grant, the library.
They always do.
Yeah, I know. Do we have?
Up 27,000 as I recall. So
Yes, somewhere in there, it's written down here. Is there any real reason we need to do that?
to have a library,
No, we give them a grant
I think
for
if we-
$27,000. Got a couple things.
I think if we don't give them a grant, they probably have to close.
I don't think so.
Well, this is just 27 is just the increase. There's already
Yeah, there's
existing
right,
allocation
that's
to
just
that.
the increase, so I don't think they're gonna close.
Do we know what the budget is?
No, they never provided us with the quarterlies or something we asked.
No, it's in the total plan, it's in your budget
Okay.
document somewhere.
I'm pretty sure we gave you everything that you asked.
Yeah.
The library's here.
Yes.
Yeah, they're
I'm
in-
here and Sue's on, Sue's up there.
So, what do you need the 28,000 for? I mean, what programs or what are you doing here? Well, 27,239.
Our costs, like everybody else, are going up. We had to bring our salaries up for market increases. We have line items that we haven't funded, it's like adult materials in the last couple of years. We brought that up by a couple of thousand. You know, this expenses are up this
Well, I
year.
understand expenses are up. I just find 27,000. That's a big building. Who's your electricity supplier, your shopping suppliers and all that kind of
We
thing?
use the same,
Hopefully, why are we using Eversource? Are we paying 24 cents a kilowatt hour? With their most recent raise?
No,
We have a contract.
we have a contract, we're locked in at 4
Okay.
something cents.
Okay.
We do,
Well, that's where they went to 24 cents a kilowatt hour.
right, they double.
Correct, they doubled from 12, so we're on 4, so that takes so 3 out. So you got gasoline, or diesel, no gasoline, fuel.
Are you still talking about the library?
Yes, I'm still in the library.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, well,
Well, time out.
sure.
I'm sorry, I don't know you.
Sue DeRocher.
Okay.
What's your position?
Yeah.
I know Sue is the finance
Treasurer.
treasurer for the library
Okay.
board.
Very good. Then, the particular light item, she already gave you the light items. Going up.
So our cleaning costs have increased dramatically. We've gone out to bid. We are using the cheapest one that we can find right now. Last year, we did a market research, a survey for salaries. We found that for other towns in our demographics, we were at the bottom of the salary range. So we did a market raise to staff to bring them up, not even to the top, but just to mid-range. Because if we do lose staff, we won't be replacing them at what we're paying them right now, just like everywhere else. So it's, most of it is costs. Just
No new
in
program.
general, I mean, we're trying, the health insurance, we calculate at 10%. We don't really know what it'll be yet, because it'll be whatever the town gets.
Sue actually changed that to 7.5.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
It was, she did that while you were out of town.
Oh, okay.
Expansion in programs. Anything like
Well,
that?
we have, we're always increasing the programs that we do. We do offer a lot of programs to the town. We are the community center for the town. We reach everybody, no matter what your demographics are, no matter what your household income is. We serve a lot of people. And, you know, we have a very, very good library for the town, so.
Sue,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I think I can speak to some programming and utilities. All of our building is electric. So we don't have any gas or any other expense. And we are on the town's contract for that. So whatever the town has as a supplier and as a cost, that's what we have. Programming, we do 8 book clubs a month, I believe at this point. And we run programs basically every Tuesday and Thursday, and usually 2 or 3 Wednesdays evenings each month. This budget does not include any additional money for programming because we're doing okay running on the budget that we had. So the increases are in salaries, some of which is minimum wage increase, in health insurance, and in administrative costs that we don't have any control over, such as paying for our bookkeeper, paying our accountant, paying insurance. And there is $2,000 in this request that is put towards electronic materials, because that is a line item that is extremely expensive. And we have not done any increase in programming or materials budgets for, well, children's, we actually cut because our children's librarian said we can find other ways to fund and it's okay. And we have not done an increase in materials and programming, I believe, in about 6 years. So we're trying our best to keep it as low as possible.
Do the patrons pay, are any of the programs you offer offset by, I'm not calling the patrons participating in these programs?
Are you asking, do patrons pay for programming?
Or a portion of some programs or materials for some programs? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not the only revenue stream.
No, we had, the town is not our whole budget.
Okay.
So we apply for other grants, everything and anything that we can apply for.
All right.
The town is not the total revenue stream.
We
Yeah.
are also a library that still charges fines, which is a controversial issue in library land.
We tap into, people, sometimes when a family member passes away, somebody has donations come into the library. Some of those donations some of those funds that we have, or most of them are designated, we can't spend them on the things that we're asking to increase. So we do spend what we can from our designated funds.
Okay.
But we're limited every year on how much we can.
All right. Thank you. Is it a percentage or a dollar amount?
It's, actually, Sue, can you answer that?
Yeah, usually it's a set dollar amount. We have some investment funds, like people who have given us a few $1,000s, and that money, what the requirements have been is that the base donation has to be invested and we can spend the interest, which these days isn't, and it's at the whim of the economy.
But in asking that question, you should be able to get more interest this upcoming fiscal year because the town is projecting to get more because interest rates are going up.
Yes,
Just to let
and
you
this-
know.
Right, right.
Yes, and this year we have increased our library amount of contribution. So we did increase the designated funds on this budget as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. You done?
No. On some of the capital improvements, one of the things I'm looking at is, if we're gonna go to the taxpayers and ask them to, look at a 3 mil or 2 mil increase, it's a substantial number at the end of the year on their houses, because a lot of houses are above the median average here that they're using. So, the difficulty that citizens are having out there with the electric rates, and of course, the grocery stores and on and on. And I don't know a lot of people out there getting 3-6% raises unless they're, working for towns or cities or something like that. And so I'm really thinking of trying to just keep the mill rate down so that the people can still afford to live in the town, afford the gas to drive to the library and do things like that. So I'm looking at it from that respect. Now, in the capital budget on the BOE, we're funding, and a lot of my questions have got to do with, we could have something coming up with the Board Ed here, a large expense. We haven't even we're just talking about paying it out of the undesignated balance fund. Nobody's even mentioned the word that we could bond it if we wanted to. I'm not suggesting it, but there's a lot that there could be out in conversations. On the, you're not gonna like me, but the fire truck, we're gonna put $300 and some odd thousand away again this year, like we did the year before. I think it's a little less this year. If we were to cut that by $100,000 at the moment, and a lot of my numbers are looking at it, the HVAC system doesn't come through for the school, we can put it all back into the fire truck and the library and other places. But in the meantime, we could remove some of this, change those a little bit, and help the taxpayers or go along with that, with the idea that if the HVAC system didn't come through, we could make them whole again. I'm just looking, trying to get it down. I know Dick wants to, to use money out of the undesignated balance. I'm sure we're going to. We do that every year. No, I know that. I'm not saying no, Dick. I understand that.
Okay.
But the thing too is, if we take out 1 mil at 580,000 for a round number, and then we take a few other things, we can almost, bring the increase down. What do you think's acceptable for the taxpayer? 1 mil, 1.5 mils, something like that? I mean, where do you want to be? You want to be at 0.7? I'm thinking of the taxpayer. I think the town and some of the organizations, if we are really sharp with the money management here, we can move things around, especially if.
In all honesty,
We got somebody with this hand up, if you're done.
All right, Bill.
So in listening to you and hearing what you're saying, I could cut $500,000 out of my budget, okay? But in 5 years, when it comes time to fund a squad at $800,000, that's gotta, and that's gonna be a big jump, okay? So I see it, you see it as holding the budget today. I see it as kicking the can down the road for the big whack in 4 or 5 years. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I know there's a large acquisition coming in probably 5 years.
Well,
Okay, yeah, I'm not quite done. We could take the covering, the rubberized chip, we could take that out of the Department of Public Works for $125,000. Sure. And in 5 years, then we're doing cul-de-sacs at a higher rate. We could take a little bit out of the, the tree fund and go on for years and years and years. So there are two ways of doing it. We could, and I hate the word bond, but we could, and I've asked Mark a few times to tell me what it costs the town to bond 5 million, 10 million, that type of thing. I want to know what the payment is and for how long. Because if we can put in a $400,000 payment over the next 10 years, but we do the school and we do this, we do the, you know, the things that we need to do. Okay, maybe it's something we have to do. But I'm looking at all of those things. Here's FiPAC. You will chart my course for me. How to get here. I want you to get from here to here. How I navigate those waters. We may not agree, but
Well, no,
tell me the job to do.
I understand what you're saying. I didn't pull the chip seal out of the budget or anything like that, because I understand what's gonna happen, and I know we have, you know, if we drop it by 100,000, I'm not saying take it out of the budget for next year or anything like that. I'm just looking at the extraordinary circumstances that we're in this year with the possibility of the HVAC system, I get that right? Coming in, you know, I'm not saying for every year going
Jeff,
forward.
I'm with you. I get it.
You know, so there are ways to bring it down to help the taxpayer and still, you know, get the fire truck moving. I'm not saying cut the program, but let's just, you know, and I'm not even cutting it in half. So just food for thought and how to move things out here. The chip seal, I understand, it's gonna, you know, and even the truck's gonna cost more money in 5 years, and on and on. But right now, we've got things that are facing us.
It wants to interject something, I hope it has.
Jeff, I agree 100% that 11% mill increase is unacceptable. Now, I'm not sure would I be comfortable with. I think it would have to be on the 5% increase and keep maybe even lower. I don't know if we have to cut anything together. We have a substantial, fortunately, we have a very substantial fund balance. And every year we take money from the fund balance to keep taxes low. Now, we're gonna do that again this year, and like I said, fortunately, we have more money than we normally do. I don't know where that's gonna get us. That was one of the things when I started speaking tonight, I was trying to get a better idea of. I don't know how much money we take. I don't know how much money we should have left in the fund balance. The more we take, obviously, the less we're gonna have in the fund balance. So those are the decisions that we're going to have to make. And maybe we're gonna have to cut up the board of selectmen's budget some. I don't know. We'll see. I'm uncomfortable cutting the budget. The hell?
Take your meds, Dick.
I'm sorry. I thought Ernie was yelling at me, actually.
No, but you're,
Your watch.
Oh, my watch.
Something's beeping
I
it.
think you're dead.
Good news, years ago, somebody thought forward and we bought an AED, so you're in luck.
Actually, my watch does a lot of things. It takes my.
I'm with Ernie.
I thought-
I don't care about your watch.
Are you done? I think,
I am done, yes.
Question. We use 97.5 collection rate for the
calculation of the mill rate.
calculation. And our historical is a number higher than that.
Yes.
Can we use a higher number and see what that does to the town budget? If we go at 98.5 or something? Are we allowed to
Where are you looking at?
request that? You can
Tax collector. You know, Stephen, I've been involved in town government for 20 years, and we've always used 97.5% collection rate because we don't want to take any chances, because especially in an economic downturn, sometimes it comes pretty close to 97.5.
Mark, can you give us a history from Carol and Tanya? You have it?
I have it, and Carol's comfortable going to 98.
Yeah, it's always been 97.5 for this.
Yeah.
20
Well,
years.
that's a big help based on the grant.
And that's why we give money, that's why
Been averaging like 98.
Our fund, yeah, well, that's why our general fund growth, keep collecting more.
Everybody done? I think, yeah, we can look at capital, I don't like making arbitrary reductions to anything. When I looked at the capital budget, first of all, I would like to compliment somebody, I'm not sure whom, but the capital, the projection of costs associated with the capital projects is remarkably consistent from last year to this year. So somebody's paying a little more attention to how they put this thing together. So whoever gets credit for that. The only big difference is the chip sealing, and I can understand that's the new one for this year, 100,000. And I can understand and appreciate why that went in, because if you look at our previously low budgeted amounts for maintaining the roads, you could fix a road with a fix that would last for 7 years, but you never could get back to that road for another 50 years. So this makes sense. I can't say that the 100,000 is right, but the addition certainly makes a lot of sense. My only question, when I was looking at the timing of things, one question I had was the box culverts. What's going on? Educate me, somebody.
200,000 of that is just a transfer from the Hop River Fund project that we no longer, federal government is picking up the tab on.
I understand that.
So we had put that money, we're moving it into the box culvert for engineering services that we will need to go through the town and look at all of our box culverts to tell us projected life, how to, abroad, how they can be repaired, or will they need to be repaired or replaced? And we have a couple in town. I believe we have.
The 200,000 will actually go towards mock and, what was the second one? Actually, engineering.
What is the timeline of actually expending money for engineering and fixing?
We will spend money for the engineer when we find an engineer.
How much is that?
We have them ready to go.
We have them ready to
He's
go.
already done the analysis on 6 of our worst culverts, and we
Yeah.
fixed one of them.
Well, how much is he charging? I guess what I'm assuming some part of that money is going for actually repairing.
No, that's actually doing the entire engineering design for 2 small bridges. One's a pipe culvert, one's a
I should have stayed in school.
Box culvert.
one's a box culvert.
Wow.
So in saying that, they're gonna cost money to repair.
I understand that.
That we could bond if we're looking at 4 or 5 of them being in dire straits. Or we could put money away and try and, hate to say it, chip away at them to fix them.
But all the money that's in that,
That money, the 125. I talked with Bev, it came down to me and how I felt. If we needed 125, then we have money for engineering for the 2 of the largest and we believe worst. Most, attentive needs right now, the 200,000, look at the engineering on those. So, and then we would apply for anything that we could get. You talked about grants for the library. We're trying for everything that we can get also. But they could be $1 million to replace, fix that, take them out and replace them. So there may be bonding in our future, whether we like it or not.
I'm surprised you can get that word out. But bottom line, the money that's in there will be needed near term for engineering and design.
On 2 of our largest and worst.
Gotcha.
If the question of the 125 to start feeding that,
Okay, remind me when we will hear about the HVAC grant of when roughly?
Still waiting.
We don't know.
Should have heard.
I'll see if I can find out.
We'll start poking.
I will tell you, and I'm gonna. Last night, the Board of Selectmen heard the initial RFQ. And we've asked to make some, which is requests for qualifications, that were RFQ. And we've made some ask for changes in that because we don't want RFQs to come in from people who feel like they can fix the solution from the ground up. We've actually backed it down a little bit because if the problem's in the ground down, we're gonna waste money on the ground up. So we've asked for civil engineer to come in to tell us what we're going to need, or put it out for bid for a company to come in and tell us what we'll need from the foundation down, from the ground down. Because we believe the eradication of the water and moisture is at the heart of fixing the problem over there. The HVAC, yes. But it can be, there's a lot of choices out there if we find the true problem of the moisture. That's my opinion. But then again, we're waiting to see from the qualified personnel for the civil engineer.
So the HVAC isn't a guaranteed fix.
I don't know. Correct. I don't know. Because I don't know what the drainage is like. I don't know if there's cracks in the foundation that we don't see. I don't know. I don't know if it was sealed properly. If they can seal it properly with a rubberized type of coating inside and out to eradicate the moisture that we find in underground level dwellings, like everybody's basement in their house.
But there's no way we can not do something with HVAC, is that correct?
Correct, but there are different
I
ways.
understood, yeah, it wasn't a challenge. Kelly,
My biggest concern is that we're going to get a proposal, we're going to get an analysis, it's going to tell us something is a problem. And we're gonna have to fix it,
Yes,
and we're gonna have to spend money to do that,
yes.
and it's gonna have to come out of the undesignated fund. We may allocate $1.8 million and find that there's another $1 million that has to be done on top of that. We may get the grant or we may not, but we know that there's going to be close to a $2 million project, and potentially significantly more than that we have to spend for the school. And we
I
may or
don't
may
know,
not.
you know, you might know, I don't know.
It's very likely, well, if we get the grant, we're gonna spend $1.8 million because we're committed to do it, even if it doesn't solve the problem. And then we're gonna have to find something else, spend other money to solve the problem.
But can we go to the taxpayer and say you're gonna spend $1 million
No,
and we're not gonna fix it?
They voted. You can't unvote. I mean, we have to pay the $1.8 million, whether it fixes the problem or not. So if it isn't gonna fix the problem, we need to spend the money to fix the problem. So I don't wanna take another $1 million out of the undesignated fund, but I know we have this serious issue that needs to be resolved one way or another.
Explain this again.
What portion?
No, so
Okay, so if we asked, we
the
told
state
them,
for
we
45%.
believed it was gonna be 1/8. Okay. We will get, if the state says, Columbia, you're all set to go, we choose you, great, you get 51% of that in the grant back. When it's done, I don't know the whole procedures, but when it's done. Okay. If it comes in and we find there's problem with the foundation and that has to be fixed, and it costs excavation and materials and this and that eats up 600,000 of the 1/8. We, in our referendum, we said if we do not get 45% of the entire cost of the project, we do not have to move forward with that project. We can reapply, if the grants are still there next year. Or we can do, instead of the big HVAC air purification, we could fix the foundation and the drainage and stuff, keep a lot of the moisture from getting in there, and then do individual splits with, like Andover did with their classrooms. Like, there are solutions out there. We have to look at all of them to find the best one. It could be, we have to go with an air purification system. I
But
don't
isn't
know
that what the
so-
budget
so-
was approved, was for the air purification system? Or did I misunderstand that?
Air quality, yeah, but stopping a curtain drain from leaking will increase the air quality.
So there was an engineering study done by an engineering firm that determined the cause of this, which wasn't groundwater. So they were asking for another opinion.
Which makes sense, that's fine, but I
did
mean,
they-
we wanna fix the
Did
problem.
they look at the, the route of the water? Did they go look at the end of it and see if the water is running? Did they bore test holes and see what the moisture is in the ground there? Did they look? I don't know.
I just don't know that if you discover, or that you need to do $750,000 of excavation work, I don't think that negates the $1.8 million that was approved for the
So we can use
air
that.
quality system.
Well,
Are you sure?
the entire project, right?
But they're two projects, one's underground, one's above ground.
No, it's to mitigate moisture and provide better quality HVAC and air, basically. So
Does that, all right, so you're saying that you, all right, let's say you discover based on this new analysis that it is not requiring this new HVAC, but it requires, let's say, drainage or all these other things. Does that mean the state funds do not come through? And does that
Yeah,
mean,
check,
Yeah.
check.
I want to back up just a little bit. It's going to need some sort of HVAC because the moisture is causing the mold. The moisture is not causing one end of the building to be cold and the other end hot. It's got to have some sort of better circulation and an upgrade with a more, probably a computerized airflow, so it keeps it all I don't know what it costs. I'm just saying, we just don't know so much.
There are air quality mandates that have recently been approved by the state of Connecticut for schools. So this is also working with that.
And yet in the 2022 mold testing that they did, there was more molds outside than inside.
Because we had cleaned the mold prior to that
Because we cleaned
testing.
Okay,
We removed,
prior to the test day?
prior to the testing, we had to prove that we eradicated that mold. So it had been, all the classrooms had been moved out, that entire place was cleaned. Then the mold test was redone. And yes, it worked, cleaning it up. So,
Well, I just am worried because that is gonna be an expensive project and maybe we get half of it back. But I suspect we're gonna end up spending more than $1.8 million, really, because that's very
And I
common, that
suspect
these
we're probably-
overrun.
If we do that, I suspect we're probably gonna bond. That big of a project, we're probably gonna bond. At that point in time, why wouldn't you do the whole school? If you're gonna upgrade the electrical to be able to handle the whole school, and the worst part is A-wing because it's below grade. The rest of it is probably, I wouldn't say that it's 4/5 the cost.
Well, and having a healthy undesignated fund helps with our bond rating, I imagine. Do we know what our rating is?
We haven't gone out to the market.
So we wouldn't know until we went there. Okay.
in council.
And 99% of the towns in Connecticut have the same rating. Or that was true 10 years ago. We haven't looked at volumes, I haven't checked lately. Okay, where are we? We've thrown out some concerns, a lot of concerns. We've thrown out some what ifs. I think we've reached a point where we need to get some numbers on paper so we can juggle them around and see the impact of various options. What if we, I don't know. What's gonna happen to the fund balance, for instance, right now is at, what is it, $4 million?
4.6.
And make sure we understand that it could go down 1.8 what that means, what it could also recover or denied at a certain time. In an ideal world, we'd have no tax increase, which means that we'd have to take roughly 3 mils out of the fund balance, 3 times 600,000, that's $1,000,008. Can't afford that. Okay, put numbers, and the impact would be this: if you went whole hog into a scenario, we won't have no tax increase. What's a reasonable compromise? I think if we had numbers in front of us, we could do quick calculations. So basically what I'm saying is I think we're starting to beat a dead horse tonight, and I'm not sure we can get anywhere without actually putting pen to paper and saying, well, I don't like that. What if we do this as an alternative? Anybody wants to take a shot at that, fine. You know, I will try.
I want to take a shot at it right now. I'm just gonna throw something out there. You always tell me I'm part of this as by default, I'm a FiPAC too. So
Well, yeah, but
at 4.6 million, you tell me I'm eating this one, so
you have to wait to be recognized by the chair.
you know me, recognize me.
I move we adjourn.
This is real easy. This is real easy, okay? And it's just something food for thought to think about, because it'll help you in the long run. 4.6 general fund right now, okay? We're gonna take 1.8 for the HVAC and put it aside, okay? And then we're going to take 800,000, this is just a figure, and use it for mill rate reduction. Okay? So that will tell you what you can increase the budget by.
Again,
Right.
Use the
Does it make sense?
No, I know what you're doing, exactly. I
Okay.
run the numbers.
So if 4.6, we take out 1.8 for the HVAC, put it aside, and we say we can use, let's say 800,000 to bring 1.5 mill rate off of the 3 or whatever. And you say to us, okay, so 1.5 off, that leaves 1.5, that's $750,000 between the Board of Ed and the town. See what you can come up with to cut back on the $750,000. If we come up with, I know the town, I've already looked at it, I could probably take 200 out of it. But even if, and if the Board of Ed can't take anything, if they can't save on boxes of staples or reams of paper, they can't find any savings whatsoever, then you're gonna know we're gonna have to raise taxes to cover $550,000, 1 mil.
Steve, one quick question. Why not take more than 800,000?
Because, that's a good question, Dick, thank you. Because that will leave us $2 million in our general fund. And $2 million is an 18% general fund position. And at 18%, a healthy general fund is between 14 and 17% for the years that we've been doing this. I believe that's a pretty healthy fund. I'd rather be a little bit better than healthy, just a little bit more. That'll give us $2 million in our general fund.
Actually, way back, we used to have about 12% in the general fund. And,
We used to do fires with horses and wagons. Unfortunately, $2 million doesn't go very far if we have a catastrophic. event.
So
Spend
my
$1
question,
million
and I know you haven't gone out to bid yet and everything of this nature. Now, if you, I assume going under the 17%, I'm relatively new to discussing the whole bond. Will that affect
I
our
have
ability?
no idea.
Okay.
No lie, I have no idea. So that, you want somebody to do it? I gave you rough numbers. Good luck. God bless you.
you lost me at the end a little bit. Take off the 800 or using.
Okay, that's right, I'll do it again, and you're right, because Dick, I didn't add quickly what Dick said. What am I trying to keep? I'm trying to keep a $2 million general fund. 4.6 is where we're starting, minus 1.8 for the HVAC project we're peeling off. If we use $800,000 of that general fund, that will leave us with a $2 million general fund. Whatever's left off of that 1.8 and 800,000, blah, blah, that's what we either try to find some cuts, or that's what we go to the town with. We got to raise X amount of dollars.
Okay, when you take the 800,000, that will, we're talking about a what, 2.99 mill rate increase? You use 800,000 to reduce the mill rate, we're still talking about
1.475,
no,
close.
no.
Each mill is 500 and what?
583.
583.
580,
So 3 times 580 is 100, 1.5. And then you put another 240, that's 1.740, which is almost a $2 million. We could go a little bit more. We could probably go $1 million. I mean, yeah, $1 million for the mill shaving. It would still give us about 17%.
Yeah, I would think a million would make more sense than 800,000, and it still leaves us with a very healthy fund now.
Now, I'm not that good at math. Let me ask the treasurer of the library. How does that?
you put her to sleep a long time ago. Okay.
There's a proposal.
A proposal, some numbers we can put on paper so we can make sure we're comfortable with them and then kick around alternatives if we're not completely comfortable. And we have to give some thought to the questions we've thrown out tonight. What kind of tax increase are we comfortable with? What kind of fund balance are we comfortable with? We're sort of ignoring the 900,000 that we're gonna get back, which is sort of a cushion. Sort of an asset we have that we really don't have, but it's an asset that we shouldn't forget about. What else should we do tonight, folks?
That's it?
Would, just for thought, would we be unreasonable if we wanted to go in with a tax increase of about maybe 0.04? I mean, are we absolutely, gonna go for a zero budget increase?
Nobody said nobody.
Right, I know, I just kind of think if we're trying to get that far down, it's unrealistic. Okay, I mean, I've run a lot of numbers, I will run a number, doing in my sleep, but,
Yeah, nobody threw that out as a solid proposal.
well, I understand that.
We just said, I threw out some numbers that said, this is what it would take, and obviously you don't want to do that.
Okay.
Or at least I don't.
No.
I can't speak for anybody else. Bring this back to it again, think about it, and come back next week, with, looking at numbers and say, this is the impact of this combination of numbers, and that's not good, that's the something else. Or that's good, let's quit. But I don't think we're gonna resolve anything tonight. I keep thinking that we should go home.
Make a motion to
Well,
adjourn.
before you do that.
I already tried it.
No, I had to spend $2 on a bag of jelly beans, so I could give an additional store credit for something. Who wants a bag of jelly beans for the kid? Right there. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
At
8:33.
Okay, we're out of here.
Nice.